Wrap it up, wrap it up. There's a buddy in the basement.
Oh.
She freaks me out too. Oh my god. Yep.
That already disappeared.
How about changing Airbnbs? Today we're reacting to 3 true stalker horror stories animated. Even though I'm easily spooked, I love everything horror related, and I have so many stories to tell you, but sadly now is not the time. But anyway, enough talking, we can start the video. Let's go.
That weekend was supposed to be a simple anniversary trip. Jenna and I left after work, heading to a bed and breakfast about 2 hours north that Jenna had found online. We booked it 2 months ago, and we were looking forward to make the most of our time together. The drive alone was relaxing without the usual distractions until we exited the highway. The GPS took us onto a country route that got narrower with each mile. Around mile marker 17, the GPS started acting up. It kept recalculating as the blue line jumped all over the screen.
Oh,
Jenna checked her
Lord.
phone.
Seriously though, that's so relatable, and it's so annoying when that happens, especially when you're walking. And honestly, I live in a town where there's always, and when I say always, I mean always construction. So I'm basically used to the GPS recalculating all the time, but this is so annoying. Like, I get it.
And found we had 1 bar of service that kept dropping to nothing. I pulled onto the shoulder near what looked like an old farm access road. The engine idled while I tried to make sense of the paper map we grabbed at the last gas station. Jenna leaned over. Her finger traced the route we thought we were on. We were bickering about the possible right direction when suddenly headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. I popped my head out to notice a dark van crawling past. The driver took it as some signal and pulled over right beside us. The passenger window of the van rolled down. 2 men sat inside. Both looked in their 40s. The driver kept his hands on the wheel. The passenger leaned toward us with a friendly smile. He said they were locals, and he asked if we were lost and needed help with directions.
No thanks, I will figure it out myself. Huh.
I told him we were trying to
No,
find the Pinewood
don't
Inn,
trust strangers,
that our
everybody.
GPS had quit working. He nodded as if he understood completely. Said the area was notorious for bad signals. The driver said something I couldn't quite hear, and they both laughed. The passenger said they knew exactly where we needed to go,
Nothing's funny.
and that there was a shortcut just up ahead. We had to turn left on the Millbrook Road, and it would cut 15 minutes off our drive easily. He gestured vaguely into the darkness ahead of us. Jenna squeezed my hand, unsure, but the guys really seemed to know their way around here, and any help seemed better than getting lost. I thanked them. The passenger gave us a little salute, and they pulled ahead slowly. We waited a moment, then followed. The turn from Millbrook Road came up faster than I expected. I didn't spot any street sign, but there was indeed a gap in the trees with cracked pavement barely visible in our headlights. I made the turn. The van...
What are you doing? You made the turn? Are you? Oh my god. Yep.
had already disappeared down the road ahead of us anyway. Within a quarter mile,
Bye-bye.
I knew something was wrong. The pavement gave way to gravel, followed by dirt with deep ruts. The trees crowded in so close that the branches scraped against the passenger side. There were houses or lights as far as we could see, but the forest was getting thicker. Jenna said we should turn around, and that she was getting heebie-jeebies. I agreed, and started looking for a place wide enough to turn. That's when I checked the mirror and saw headlights behind us. The van had circled back and was keeping about 50 yards back, matching our speed exactly. My mouth went dry. I sped up slightly, but so did they. The road ahead curved sharply to the right. Just past the curve, it widened enough for me to attempt a 3-point turn. I pulled forward and started to cut the wheel. The van accelerated. It came up fast and stopped at an angle that blocked the road behind us. Both doors opened at the same time as the two men stepped out. The driver had something in his hand that caught the light. It was a tire iron. Jenna whispered for me to go. I threw the car into reverse, trying to back up and go around them. The passenger moved faster than I expected, coming straight for my window. He was yelling something about disrespect, about how we shouldn't have ignored them after they'd helped us. The driver swung the tire iron against the truck. The metal made Jenna scream. I jerked the car to the right. My wheel span in the dirt. We lurched forward into the trees, branches exploding across the windshield. The passenger had to jump back. I straightened out and floored it, fishtailing down the road we'd come. mirror, both men were running back to the van. We flew down that road, suspension bottoming out in every rut. I didn't slow down until we hit pavement again. I kept going, past Millbrook Road, and the spot where we had pulled over. I didn't stop until we reached the gas station with lights and people. My hands wouldn't stop shaking when I tried to pump gas. Jenna called 911 from inside. The sheriff's deputy met us there 20 minutes later. He took our statement and said he'd send a car to check Millbrook Road. He asked what the van looked like, what the men were wearing. I realized I couldn't remember much beyond the tire iron and the passenger's face when he ran at us. The deputy told us that Millbrook Road was a dead end and that it hadn't been used in years except by hunters. Said if we'd gone another half mile, we would have hit a locked gate with nowhere to turn around. We never made it to the bed and breakfast.
But wait, the guy didn't introduce himself at the beginning, did he? I mean, he only introduced Jenna. But anyway, if I were that guy, I would have run over both of them. Sorry, but my survival comes first.
We were too shaken and drained.
I'm trying to survive.
We drove back home, took back roads the whole way, and didn't talk much. I recently had to drive that route for a client meeting again, but I made sure I covered the distance in broad daylight. Still, when I passed that curve, it felt like I was reliving a horror I barely escaped.
Sorry, but why were those two guys even mad? It's not like OP spat in their faces or anything. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But anyway, next story.
I booked the Airbnb 3 days before I needed it.
Oh no.
I just quit my job without another one lined up, and my girlfriend had moved out the week before. I needed to get away from my apartment, the city, and everything. The listing was cheap. It was merely $40 a night for a whole house in rural Pennsylvania. The photo showed a 2-story farmhouse with peeling white paint and a sagging porch. The reviews were sparse, mostly one-liners like interesting place and definitely unique. One review simply recommended to follow the rules. I arrived after dark on a Thursday. The house sat at the end of a dirt road with no other homes visible in any direction. The key was in a lockbox by the front door, exactly where the host said it would be. Inside, the house felt wrong immediately. The layout didn't make sense. Doorways led to rooms that felt too small or too large for their purpose. The kitchen had 2 sinks but no dishwasher. The living room had built-in benches along the one wall with leather straps bolted to them. I found the house manual on the kitchen counter. Most of it was standard stuff about the Wi-Fi password and trash day. But the last rule was printed in bold. It said the basement door must remain locked at all times. Do not attempt to
Wrap it up. There's a buddy in the basement.
open it under any circumstances. I looked for an explanation,
Time to leave.
but there wasn't any. The basement door was in the hallway between the kitchen and the living room. It had 3 deadbolts and a padlock. I tested the handle out of curiosity.
Why
It
would
was
you?
solid and didn't budge. That first night, I fell asleep around midnight on the couch. The bedroom upstairs had the same leather straps on the bed frame, and I couldn't bring myself to sleep there. I woke up around 3 to a scraping sound underneath me. It was like someone dragging something heavy across concrete. I sat up and listened. After a minute, it stopped. I told myself it was pipes or maybe an animal that gotten into a crawl space.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm
Houses
leaving.
make noise. The second night I was up, sitting in the kitchen with a coffee, working on job applications I had no motivation to finish. When around 3, the lights flickered before they went out totally. I turned on my phone flashlight and went to check the breaker box in the hallway. Suddenly, a low humming echoed from the floor below. It sounded like a woman's voice. I pressed my ear against the floor to listen better. The humming stopped. A second later, 3 loud jabs were hurled exactly where my ear was. I
have a better idea. How about changing Airbnbs?
right up, and the lights came back on. I reasoned that the week of sleepless nights after the breakup, coupled with the constant anxiety of being
Sorry, my cat's here.
employed, had finally started to mess with my senses, and went back to sleep. The next morning, I drove into town for breakfast. The diner was nearly empty. I sat at the counter, and the bartender who doubled as the cook asked if I was just passing through. The second I mentioned I was staying at the farmhouse on Richter Road, his expression changed. He asked how long I was planning to stay. He said most people didn't make it past 2 nights there. I asked what he meant. He leaned in closer. He said the house used to be a part of a private treatment facility back in the 60s, the kind of place families sent relatives they didn't want to deal with. It burned down in 1967, killing 8 patients. The main house survived, but they sealed off the basement where the treatment rooms had been. He said not everyone made it out during the fire. The official count was 8 dead, but the facility had admitted 11 patients that year. 3 were never accounted for. I asked if he was serious. He just shrugged and said the house had been through 6 different owners in the last decade, and none of them stayed long. I drove back and checked the listing again. The host's profile indeed looked concealed, and the account had been created 2 months ago. I started packing, telling myself I'd leave in the morning and take the financial hit on the unused nights. Maybe I could crash on one of my friends' couches for a week or so. I had walked into the kitchen to grab my charger when a sharp, nasty odor filled the air. It smelled like disinfectant mixed with rot. I followed it to the pantry. The back wall looked slightly different from the surrounding wood. I pushed back on it, and a section swung inward. Behind it was another door. This one was old with a simple handle. The smell was stronger here, seeping through the gaps in the frame. It reminded me of hospitals and funeral homes. I twisted the knob. Behind the wood, the stairs led down into darkness. I could hear fabric rustling down there, along with soft padding of bare feet on concrete. I closed the door and backed away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. That night, I stayed in the car with the engine running and the doors locked. Around 3, I saw a light come on in the upstairs window. I squinted to find the front door open. A thin woman stood in the doorway, wearing a faded hospital robe. From the car, I couldn't make out her face, but I could see she was looking directly at me. She grinned and mouthed at me to go away before she turned and went back inside, slamming the door shut. My body started trembling like a leaf. I didn't wait for dawn to creep in and drove in the dead of night without looking back. I reported it to Airbnb, but the listing was gone by the time I checked later. The host's account had been deleted. 2 weeks ago, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of the farmhouse taken at night. The front door was open, and in the doorway, barely visible, was the same thin figure. The text below it said, "You left before checkout. You still owe 2 nights."
Hold up. I mean, either way, Airbnbs are paid up front. No? So what's the owner even complaining about? I mean, at the end of the day, he still got his money, so I don't know about that.
It was our first trip without our parents.
Next story.
So Luna and I had been low-key buzzing. Her aunt had offered us a cabin in the Catskills for a long weekend. We were 15 and eager to prove we could handle 3 days on our own. But somehow Cassie found out about it and cornered me after gym class 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave. Her eyes were red and puffy. She said her ex-boyfriend Tyler had admitted he only dated her to get close to me, and that he told half the school that I was the reason they broke up. She begged to come with us, saying she needed to get away from everything. Luna pulled me aside and warned me to be careful. She claimed Cassie gave her the creeps, and asked what...
I wasn't gonna say anything, but honestly, she freaks me out too.
That I noticed the way
God.
she stared at people when she thought they weren't looking, but I felt guilty. Tyler had asked me out twice before he started dating Cassie, and I said no both times. Maybe if I'd been clearer with him, none of this would have happened. I told Cassie she can come. The cabin sat at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by pine trees. It was smaller than I imagined, with only 2 bedrooms separated by a thin wall, a kitchen, and a living room with a wood stove. The nearest neighbor was a mile down the mountain. Luna claimed the 1 bedroom immediately, so I ended up sharing the other with Cassie. The first night felt tense. Luna made dinner while Cassie sat at the kitchen table, picking at her cuticles and watching us move around.
Okay.
The cabin didn't have cell service or TV, except for an old radio that only picked up static, so we decided to call it early. An hour past midnight, I jolted up to Luna screaming my name. I shot out of bed and ran to her room. She was pressed against the headboard, pointing at the doorway. said she'd woken up to someone standing at the foot of her bed, staring at her in the dark. When she screamed, they backed into the hallway. She whispered to me to check on Cassie. We did and found the girl sitting on the edge of my bed, wearing the same clothes from dinner. Her eyes looked blank and unfocused. She asked what was wrong and said she'd been in the bathroom when she heard Luna scream and she was about to come. I told Luna that maybe she was just too exhausted and hallucinating. Cassie agreed immediately and laid back down. The next morning,
Cassie can stay in the house. I swear to God, at this rate, I will just sleep in the car. Let me sleep in the car.
Luna
I'm
had
gonna
gotten
beg.
over it and wanted to
Let me
explore
sleep
the
in the
area.
car.
As I was getting ready, I realized I couldn't find my necklace. It was a thin silver chain my grandmother had given me before she died. I always kept it on the nightstand when I slept. I searched everywhere and even asked Luna to help me look, but we couldn't find it. By afternoon, other things started disappearing too. Luna's sweatshirt was missing. My favorite pen, chapstick, goggles, and my phone charger were also gone. That night, I was up reading an ebook on my Kindle under the duvet when around 2, I heard whispering coming from Cassie's side of the room. It was so quiet I thought I'd imagined it at first, but I could hear my name being repeated over and over, mixed with words I couldn't quite make out. I kept my eyes closed and didn't want to move until the whispering stopped. My heart was pounding so loudly, I was afraid the girl would hear it. As the morning rolled in, I waited until Cassie stepped out for air and searched her bag. Unsurprisingly, it had all the missing items, including my silver necklace wrapped in tissue at the bottom. There were other petty things too, like scrunchies and a pair of my underwear I hadn't even realized were missing. Underneath everything, I found a spiral notebook filled with school notes and doodles in the margins. But when I flipped through the pages, what I saw made me sick. The entire notebook was filled with crude, detailed sketches of me sleeping, walking, or getting into Luna's mom's car while Cassie watched.
Cassie can actually draw though.
From a distance. Each drawing was dated, going back months. Further in, the drawings got worse. In one, my eyes were scratched out. In another, I was lying on the ground with the dark scribbles around my head while Cassie sat on a throne, looking happy and pretty. The last page had writing instead of drawing. It was messy, with some words crossed out and rewritten. It said Tyler had never wanted me, that I'd stolen him, and that if I were gone, everything would go back to the way it was supposed to be. My hands shook as I tried to process what I'd just seen. Suddenly, a loud shriek echoed from outside, followed by footsteps. Luna was calling for help. I dropped the book and ran to find Cassie coming through, holding one of the kitchen knives. I grabbed Luna's wrist and bolted
Cassie
to
is
her
crazier
bedroom.
than I thought. I thought she was just creepy, but now, ooh, girl,
As
a
Cassie
knife.
came at us, screaming that I'd ruined her life. She said Tyler would have loved her if I hadn't been around, that everyone would have been happy if I were gone. She pounded on the door and scraped on the surface with the knife while Luna and I tried to keep the door closed. We were sobbing and screaming, trying to figure out any way to get help and escape the situation. Luck might have been on our side, because a neighbor from down the mountain happened to be driving by, heard us, and pulled into our driveway before Cassie could get to us. He called out to understand what was happening, which might have scared Cassie because she dropped the knife and ran into the woods before the neighbor could reach her. He called the police and told them everything. They found Cassie 2 hours later, sitting by a creek with mud all over her clothes. She didn't resist when they took her away. She kept muttering that I'd stolen something that belonged to her. Luna's mom picked us up that afternoon. I found out later that Cassie had been admitted to a psychiatric facility. Her parents apologized to mine, saying they had no idea she was capable of something like that. Tyler transferred schools before winter break. That was 4 years ago. Last week I got a package at my college dorm. It was awfully wrapped and without the sender's details. Inside, I found my grandmother's necklace that the police had kept as evidence. I called the facility where Cassie had been right away. They told me she'd been released about a month ago.
She needs to be there for longer. Reminder, guys, she almost killed someone. All the stories were so interesting. And my favorite was the first one, because I feel like it had me reacting the most. And yes, OP, I'm talking to you. You are completely insane. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe.